don't remember exactly when I stopped recognizing my own life. Maybe it was that Tuesday when I walked into my home and saw Mark's suitcase by the door, zipped, spotless, and full of lies. Or maybe it was before that, when he stopped looking me in the eyes and started making excuses I didn't even bother questioning. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. I was 41, married for 12 years, and I thought I was building a life. We'd moved into our home in Ridgefield shortly after our wedding. It wasn't huge, just a 3-bedroom with a small deck that overlooked a cluster of maple trees, but it was ours, or so I thought. Mark and I weren't perfect, but I had loved him with the kind of loyalty that makes you ignore your instincts. I ran the house, supported his career through 2 job changes, and took care of his mother when she got sick. I even put my own graphic design dreams on hold, shelving my freelance work while he launched a boutique financial firm with 2 college buddies. We never had kids, it just didn't happen for us. That became our unspoken ache. But I clung to the belief that the absence of children only made us a stronger team. I clung to a lot of things that weren't real. The unraveling began slow, then all at once. It started with late nights at the office, then secretive phone calls, then the oddest behavior of all, he started being nice. Like performative nice. Bringing me flowers, complimenting my cooking, saying he appreciated me. Mark was not the kind of man to throw around praise. That should have tipped me off. But instead of suspecting anything, I thought maybe we were turning a corner. Then came the suitcase. And the woman standing beside it. My best friend, Vanessa. I'd known Vanessa since I was 19. We met in college. She was loud where I was quiet, bold where I was cautious. She was the kind of woman who always said what she thought and somehow made people laugh even when she was being mean. We'd been through everything together. Breakups, deaths, job losses. She was my maid of honor. She knew everything about me. Which meant she also knew exactly how to destroy me. I walked into that house and found them there. Not tangled up in an affair. Not hiding. Just waiting. Like I was the intruder. Mark looked at me with what he probably thought was pity and said, "Claire, we need to talk." No tears. No shame. Just the final performance in a play I hadn't been cast in. Vanessa avoided my eyes. She wore my old sweater. The one she once begged to borrow after our trip to the coast. Her perfume, the one I bought her last Christmas, lingered in the air like a slap in the face. Mark said he had met someone and things had changed. He said we'd been growing apart for years. He said Vanessa had helped him see what real love looked like. I remember one line clearly. "We didn't mean for it to happen, Claire. But it feels right." He could have stabbed me and it would have hurt less. I stood there, completely numb, until he added the final insult. "We've already spoken to a lawyer. The prenup holds. I'll be fair in the split." Blink. The prenup. I had forgotten we even had one. Back then, I signed it without hesitation. Mark came from a wealthier family, and his parents insisted. "It's standard," he told me at the time. "It just protects us both." I was 29, in love and naive. I didn't even hire my own attorney. I just signed where he pointed. Now that piece of paper came back to haunt me like a ghost. Within a month, I was out of the house. The prenup, airtight and brutal, left me with no claim to the business or the home. We hadn't commingled assets, and everything was in Mark's name. Vanessa moved in less than a week after I left. I moved into a 2-bedroom rental above a bookstore. It smelled like dust and coffee, and I couldn't sleep for weeks. Grief doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just hums quietly behind your ribs every morning. I didn't rage. I didn't confront. I just vanished from their lives. But I didn't vanish from my own. I started small. I dug out my old sketch pad. I began drawing again, just logos at first, then a few design jobs for small businesses. Word spread fast. I was good and people remembered. Within 2 years, I had a steady stream of clients and enough income to move into a better apartment. By year 4, I had my own firm. Just 3 employees and a cozy office above a bakery. But it was mine. I never remarried. I didn't date much. I didn't want to be touched, not really. I had found something quieter than love, peace. Then came the letter. It was a formal document. Elegant paper, thick with legal language. Mark was suing me. He claimed that the logo design I'd created during our marriage, which he'd used in his company branding, was actually his intellectual property. He claimed I had no right to use a similar style in my current business, as it damaged his brand's image. I sat with it for a full hour, my hands trembling. He had everything. Why would he come after this? Called a lawyer. Her name was Ellen Rosario. Sharp, experienced, and fiercely calm. I handed her everything. Emails, old notebooks, receipts. And then I asked her the question I never thought I'd revisit. Can we re-examine the prenup? She raised an eyebrow. Do you have a copy? I didn't. But Ellen found it. And that's when everything changed. I found something, Ellen said 2 weeks later, sliding a folder across her desk. There it was in plain ink. A clause buried on page 7 of the original prenup. Clause 14. B. In the event of proven infidelity by the signer, Mark A. DeWitt, all protection clauses are void. I blinked at it. You're kidding me, I whispered. Ellen shook her head. It's valid. The language is clear. It means that if we can demonstrate that Mark was unfaithful before initiating divorce proceedings, the entire prenup becomes unenforceable. But I signed this. I didn't even know. You signed it, and so did he. That clause was added, ironically, by his family lawyer, likely to show good faith. They assumed you'd be the one who might cheat. Typical. A weight I didn't know I still carried lifted off my chest. Ellen leaned forward. If we go to court, I don't want to just defend against his claims. I want to file a counterclaim. On the basis of misrepresentation, emotional damages, and fraud, and asset redistribution due to the invalidation of the prenup. I nodded slowly. Let's do it. The next 6 months were a storm of paperwork, depositions, and quiet revelations. Ellen was ruthless. She found Vanessa's old Instagram account. Screenshots of posts from before the divorce, including one from a spa retreat she and Mark went on while I was still married to him. She found receipts for hotel stays, phone logs, even a florist invoice with a note, "To V, always yours." It was all there. We weren't just going to argue the clause applied. We were going to prove it had been shattered beyond repair. The court date was set. Mark looked smug in the pre-trial hearing, dressed in a tailored navy suit, sitting beside Vanessa like he still owned the room. He didn't even glance at me. That was fine. He didn't know what was coming, because when we got to court, the judge asked a question I knew we were waiting for. Do you have a copy of the original prenuptial agreement? The courtroom was quiet, almost too quiet, like the air itself knew something was about to break. Mark sat across from me, flanked by his lawyer and Vanessa, who looked pristine in beige. Her usual neutral tones that said, I'm polite, I'm proper, I'm harmless. But I knew better. Beige could hide anything. The judge, a tall, silver-haired woman named Judge Carolyn Embry, adjusted her glasses and looked at the document Ellen had handed over. A clause of forfeiture in the event of infidelity, she said aloud. Very uncommon but not illegal. Let me be clear. This case is no longer just about branding or intellectual property. It now potentially involves the reassessment of asset distribution stemming from a contested prenuptial agreement. Mark shifted in his seat. I saw it, a flicker of panic. His lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, this clause is void due to lack of enforcement. The divorce occurred years ago, and no claim was made regarding infidelity at the time. Therefore, this is a post hoc attempt. Judge Embry raised a hand. You'll have a chance to argue that. But if the document is genuine, the clause exists, and the claim can be supported by evidence, it is absolutely relevant. Could see it then. In Mark's eyes. He had forgotten. Or ignored it. He never thought it would come back. And now it was here. Looming above him like a wave he never saw forming. Ellen stood with a composure I envied. She began with the timeline, the spa retreat, the florist invoice, an email Vanessa had forwarded to herself from Mark's account while they were still being careful. The judge listened, expressionless. Then Ellen did something I didn't expect. She called Vanessa to the stand. There was a ripple of movement. Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a little too airy. "You've been subpoenaed," Ellen said calmly. "We served notice 2 weeks ago. You're required to testify." She looked at Mark. He looked like he might vomit. Vanessa hesitated, then stood and walked toward the witness box like a cat approaching water. She swore in. She sat. And Ellen began. "Ms. Laramie, can you confirm how long you've been in a relationship with Mr. DeWitt?" Vanessa shifted. "Romantically. Since after the divorce." Ellen tilted her head. "Before that, we were friends. Close friends. Close enough to take vacations together." Vanessa blinked. Ellen slid a photo onto the screen. A time-stamped image from a luxury spa lobby. Vanessa in a bathrobe. Mark in swim trunks. The date was 6 months before the divorce. Vanessa swallowed hard. "I don't. He was going through a hard time, we were just talking." "Did you share a hotel room on that trip?" Vanessa went pale. "Answer the question." She looked toward Mark, who stared forward, jaw clenched. "Yes," she whispered. "Did your relationship begin while Mr. DeWitt was still married?" "Yes." Silence fell like a weight across the room. Ellen turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, we've now confirmed infidelity during the marriage, thus triggering the forfeiture clause in the prenuptial agreement. This document is no longer enforceable. My client is entitled to marital property, including but not limited to equity in Mr. DeWitt's business, the shared residence, and financial reparations for misrepresentation during the divorce proceedings." Mark stood up suddenly. "She's lying," he barked. "That clause, it wasn't in the final version. This must be a different draft." Judge Embry looked unimpressed. "You signed this document, Mr. DeWitt. There's a digital record of the signing with time-stamped authentication. Do you deny that this is your signature?" "I didn't read it," he shouted. "Then that is your own negligence," she said coolly. Vanessa was still on the stand, her composure cracking. "I didn't know about the clause," she muttered. "He told me everything was clean. He said Claire would get over it." That hit like a slap. "He said Claire would get over it. Like I was a mild inconvenience. A coffee stain on the corner of his life. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. Because now the damage was done. And it was all on record. What came next wasn't in any of our plans." Vanessa turned to the judge and said, unprompted, "Can I say something?" The courtroom held its breath. "Go ahead," Judge Embry replied carefully. "I didn't want it to be this way," she said, voice trembling. "Mark told me he and Claire hadn't been intimate for years. That she was cold. That she made him feel like nothing. I believed him. I believed everything he said." He paused. "But that was before I saw how he treated me once she was gone. He changed. Or maybe he never changed. Maybe I just never wanted to see it." Her eyes were wet now. "He didn't just cheat on Claire. He cheated both of us," Mark muttered. "Jesus, Vanessa. No. You ruined her life and then you came for her again, because she had the nerve to rebuild." Vanessa looked at me. Really looked. For the first time in years. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It didn't fix anything." But it mattered. Judge Embry glanced down at her notes, then back up at us. "One final question," she said. "Mr. DeWitt, are you aware that the lawsuit you filed against Ms. DeWitt initiated the reopening of your prenup and placed your entire financial holdings under review?" Mark didn't answer. She continued, "Are you aware that if you had not filed that lawsuit, Ms. DeWitt would have remained without legal grounds to challenge the prenup?" Mark's face dropped. His mouth opened, then shut. It hit him. He had undone himself, his greed, his ego, his desire to punish me for existing without him. That one question, meant as a legal clarification, landed like a wrecking ball in his chest. He had come after me, and now he would lose everything. The courtroom was adjourned, but the silence lingered like smoke. Mark slouched into his seat. His tie had come loose. His skin had gone from bronze to blotchy. Vanessa had returned to the gallery, her hands clasped like a nervous student waiting for a test result she already knew she'd failed. Me. I sat still watching. Not out of revenge. Not anymore. It was something else now. Reclamation. The judge requested final statements. Ellen delivered ours with surgical precision. Your Honor, this isn't just about the letter of a contract. It's about the spirit that was violated. My client signed a document in good faith, believing she was building a life with someone she trusted. That trust was shattered, quietly, cruelly, and without warning. And when she did what any strong woman does, when she rebuilt her life, Mr. DeWitt attempted to punish her again. Today we ask for restitution. Not just financial but personal. Then came the decision. Judge Embry's voice was calm but resolute. This court finds the prenuptial agreement to be legally void due to proven infidelity during the marriage. As such, the defendant, Ms. Claire DeWitt, is entitled to an equitable share of the marital assets accumulated during the course of the marriage, including, after evaluation, 47% of the business co-founded during that time, half the equity in the shared residence, and retroactive spousal support. Mark exhaled like a man who had been gut-punched. In addition, the judge continued, the court finds that the plaintiff's original lawsuit was filed in bad faith. It is dismissed, and all legal fees incurred by the defendant shall be reimbursed by Mr. DeWitt. Ellen placed a quiet hand on mine. I didn't move. I had imagined this moment 100 different ways. In some versions I stood up and yelled. In others I wept. In most, I looked him dead in the eye and told him everything he'd taken from me. But now that it was real, I didn't need to. He knew. Vanessa looked like she was barely breathing. I met her eyes for a second. Not out of sympathy, but because I wanted her to see that I wasn't broken anymore. I was whole. And I was walking away with everything they thought I'd lost. It took another 5 months for the finances to settle, for the lawyers to send their final statements, for the titles and shares to transfer. I didn't take the house. I didn't want it. I sold my half to Mark at market value and bought a small, sun-filled cottage outside of town. I did keep my share of the business. Not because I wanted to run it, but because he would have to see my name on the books. Every quarter, every meeting, every tax filing. Claire DeWitt, co-owner. A quiet reminder that I hadn't just survived. I had outlived him. One rainy morning, I received a letter in a cream envelope with a familiar, looping signature. It was from Vanessa. I stared at it for a while before opening it. Inside was a single sheet. Handwritten. Claire, I don't expect forgiveness. And I won't insult you by pretending I didn't know what I was doing. I was jealous of you for a long time. Of your calm, your grace, your life. When Mark told me he felt unseen in your marriage, I convinced myself I was rescuing him. But the truth is, I think I just wanted to win. And I lost more than I ever understood. He's not the man I thought he was. You didn't just get justice in court. You reminded me of who I used to be before all of this. You didn't deserve any of it. I hope someday you find real peace. Vanessa. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer I never opened again. About a year later, I was invited to speak at a local women's business conference. Nothing fancy. Just a gathering of small business owners, most of them older, many of them divorced or widowed. I gave a talk about branding, about finding your voice again after life knocks it out of you. Afterward, a woman approached me. Early 50s, cardigan, notebook clutched to her chest. Claire, she asked softly. He nodded. I just wanted to say, thank you. You made me feel like I'm not too late. I smiled at her. You're never too late. We talked for half an hour. She told me about a candle business she was trying to start out of her garage. As I watched her walk away, I realized something. This was the real verdict. Not the one in court, but this one, where my scars became someone else's survival map. Mark's business began to struggle. Not because I interfered, but because he ran it with the same arrogance he ran his marriage. Clients dropped. Partners left. Eventually, he sold his shares to a competitor. Vanessa moved to another state. I heard she went back to school. I painted my front door yellow. I adopted an old dog named Henry who snores like a lawnmower. And every so often when I pass a mirror, I look at the woman staring back and think, she's not the woman who got left. She's the woman who kept going. And in the end, that's everything. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.